Yo, what's going on, everybody? New Flyers Talk A2D coming at you here on a Tuesday night. Talking Flyers trade deadlines, a couple rumors going around. Could it be Scotty Laughton? Could it be Nick Seeler? A couple other guys included. We're going to break that down. We're also going to talk about a preview coming up. Connor Bedard's first game against the Philadelphia Flyers. We're going to break all that down and more tonight on Flyers Talk A2D. So hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share. Let's go. It's time to talk some hockey, boys.
Getting up in that. It's Flyers Talk A2D. We're powered by the doc. That is Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, with 2 locations in Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Check out our doc. Make them yours. SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. Matt Tsudi's off this week, but we do have Brian Daly and Brad Ryer on the top line, centered by yours truly, Rob Povia. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe for notifications to all your favorite shows here on A2D Radio. Tonight, we're breaking down Wednesday's first showdown with Connor Bedard, rookie sensation, and the Chicago Blackhawks. But first, with the trade deadline looming, we want your comments on our face-off poll. And that is, Scott Laughton being traded on March 8th is a realistic option. Agree or disagree? We'll be reading your comments all throughout the podcast tonight. But first, I got to hear from my boys. Brian, what's your take? Scotty Laughton, will he be traded?
This is tough. I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence for a lot of things, but this one specifically because Scotty does so much right. He has so many good intangibles that a lot of the other players that are on this trade block right now don't have. He has that blue collar work ethic. He has the ability to score goals. He's a little streaky when it comes to offense, but you know what player in his position kind of is, and he's a good top 9 player, really strong middle 6, can play top line minutes if need be. He's been pretty good for the Flyers this year. I think he's kind of have a little bit of a backtrack year. He's regressed a little bit. He's taking a lot of dumb penalties, which he's on pace this season to have the most PIMs in his career so far. So that's kind of a setback. But, you know, centers are going to be hard to come by in this trade deadline. They're going to be a dime a dozen. I think that's how the phrase goes. I might have it backwards.
No, you're good.
But he's going to have some value because outside of him, there's not a whole ton of talented centers that are going to be made available, if even traded to begin with. I know Adam Henrique for the Ducks is going to be on the trade block. He's probably going to be your number 1 center. Scott Laughton is going to be available. These guys, these hardworking centermen that play the middle 6 that are going to add depth are going to have, I think, a little extra value. If the right deal comes along, you need to absolutely make this move. I agree. It is a realistic option, but it has to be for the right deal. I don't think he's worth a first rounder, but for me, if you can get a young player and a mid pick for him, I think that's a pretty solid deal for a guy like Scott Laughton. But like I said, centers, I don't think are going to be there's not going to be too many centers available. So that's going to just up his value just a little bit more. So we'll see. I agree to the poll, though. I think it is very much a realistic option.
Got it. And, you know, I mean, he has been raising his stock of late, especially with, you know, throwing up that power play goal the other night, you know, showing, you know, at least a good ability to both kill penalties as well as contribute on the power play. A special teams guy, center ice, can play wing. Those are valuable come trade deadline, but are also valuable to teams that are trying to make some noise in the playoffs, which, Brad, the Flyers are in position to make the playoffs. So what say you to tonight's face-off poll?
That's a tough one. You know what? I mean, if I were the Flyers, I would keep him because you know what? You can always re-sign him again next year. He's not an expensive player, and I think he's more valuable to the team. And why not try and make a playoff run? honestly, guys, I mean, I know you think a lot of Scott Laughton. What are you going to get for him? A third or a fourth?
They're asking for a first.
Huh?
They're asking for a first.
Well, that's not going to happen. Come on. Nobody's going to give up a first round pick for him.
If he's one of the top 3 available at center in a
Yeah, but
very,
he's got
very
7
slim market,
Yeah, but he's got 7 goals, Brian.
that doesn't matter. The
Oh,
value,
come on.
his
Yeah,
value
sure it
ups.
does.
No,
What
it doesn't, because the
value?
value ups.
He's got 7 goals in 55 games.
So he's not a goal scorer. He's a two-way player. He's a
There's
good penalty killer.
Look, you could get Tyler Johnson and he can score too. And I mean, there
He's a
are
lot younger
centers.
than Tyler Johnson.
Huh?
He's younger than Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, I know he is, but I mean, if you're getting him, you're getting him as a rental for a playoff run. I'd rather have Tyler Johnson in a big game than him.
He's a depth center. That's all you need from him.
But you're not going to give up a first round pick for a depth center.
Somebody will.
Who is that desperate to do that?
Some of the teams that are in a playoff run that are Stanley Cup contender that need the depth up the middle. A lot of teams don't have that right now.
I understand that, but I think he can do better than Scott. If you can't find somebody in your minor league system that can score like Scott Laughton, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you must not have a good farm system then.
Well, you're
I mean,
not
the
bringing
Rangers
Scott
pulled
Laughton to
somebody-
score goals for you.
Huh?
You're not bringing in Scott Laughton to score goals for you.
Yeah, but you still have to score goals. I mean,
He'll get you goals.
if you're a middle, yeah, but 7 in 55 games.
Again, that's not his role.
I understand that, but if he's going to go to another team and you want him to be a second or third line center, you know he's got to score more goals than that. That's just it's not enough. Not if you take a look at some of the really good teams in the league, their two top centers usually are in the mid to high teens, or one's usually around 20, and the other one's like right around 18 to 20. You know, Scott Laughton's is a third line center. You're not going to get a first round pick. I mean, maybe you will. Maybe listen, there are teams that aren't particularly smart that might overpay for a guy like him,
right?
If they're absolutely desperate. But honestly, and I'm not trying to diminish Scott Laughton. I'm looking at it like from my team's perspective. Okay, like the Rangers. Okay, I got Johnny Brodzinski right now playing third line center, and Johnny Brodzinski in 34 games has 14 points. Okay, the ratio is about the same. He can win faceoffs. He kills penalties. He's also on the second power play unit. Has one heck of a wrist shot. I wouldn't give up. I think he's fine as a third center. I would give up a first round pick for Frank Vetrano. Okay, I might consider giving up a second round pick for Ryan Strome. You know, if Steven Stamkos were made available, and that's still a possibility, by the way, because Tampa Bay is bad, and Svechnikov getting hurt is not going to help. Okay, he's a legitimate first round pick kind of center too. Right. But, I mean, I'm sure if we went up and down the rosters, we could find guys who actually I think could be legitimate first round pick players. But I don't think he's good enough to be a first draft choice. I'm sorry, a number 1 pick, guy in a trade. That's all. I'm not diminishing him. I wouldn't mind having the guy on my fourth line to win faceoffs. But again, you can't use a first round pick if you're a smart organization for a guy like Scott Laughton. He's a good player. He's a useful player. Okay, but not for that. And again, I'm not diminishing him. He kills the Rangers, okay?
Right.
And he has for his entire career.
Right.
So, I mean, and I know that. I've seen him do it.
Right.
Okay?
Got it, Brad. Let me just say this real quick, though. He does come with 2 more years of control, you know, being in his 3rd year of a 5-year contract at cheap money. So that makes him a little more appealing. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. He's not worth a first-round pick. Let me get to some of these comments real quick, boys. The normal cast of characters joining us tonight. Roska chiming in saying, "What's up, Me Metal Matt? What's up, fellas?" He goes, "What's your opinions on the Devils really stinking things up?" Well, they didn't stink things up too much at MetLife Stadium Saturday night. You really, we'll talk, I'm sure, a little bit about that and our feelings towards that at some point during the show. But he also goes on. He goes, "Who would be a better hockey GM, Matty, Brad, Brian, or Robbie?" I don't know, boys. Any of you guys looking for a GM job? I'd take one.
I'd take one.
Yeah, I'd take one too, but I'd probably get booed right out of and lynched. I get
Right.
booed, lynched, and banished. Not
Right.
necessarily in that order.
Right. PD Evans saying, "Yo, fam, Don 19. What's up, fellas? Don in the house. Welcome. Always glad to have you, boys. Chime in, absolutely at any time. We want to hear your comments at tonight's poll or whatever's on your mind. Me, Metal Matt, Mike, he's chiming in again, particular to what we're talking about in terms of Scott Laughton and Walker traded to a contender for future cash. I say he goes to the Maple Leafs for a first and second round. Are you speaking Walker there or Laughton? I'm not sure about that.
If you're trading both those guys, you could get a first. Yes.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
Right.
That I would say
in a package.
Yeah, that's worth a first.
Right.
Okay. Walker, I would say, is worth a little more than Laughton, just because Walker's a defenseman, and I think teams need defensemen more. Every team could use a depth defenseman, and they're very hard to find. And one that's actually good and doesn't give the puck away and can play in the playoffs under the bright lights is extremely hard to find. So yeah, if you added that to the package, yes.
Absolutely. Chuck's chiming in. Yo, gentlemen, agree with the poll. I think it's definitely possible we see Laughton traded. Well, you did finally name a captain and another assistant captain in Sean Couturier and Travis Konechny. So you didn't, you keep the A on Scott Laughton out of due to respect of what he means to this team. A lot of people describe him. You read the Philly Inquirer as the glue that holds this team together, and he's been on the Flyers for a long time. It's hard trading those pieces, and I really feel, in terms of the way I look at this poll, that I don't think this team is actively putting lots in the shopping window. But if the right deal comes along, Danny B. Jonesy and Torts are committed to building this thing right. So it's definitely a realistic option, for the soon-to-be 30-year-old to be moved. But it's not going to be for peanuts. They're going to hold out for their price or not move him because of what he means to this team, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where the value comes in. That's why I think he could be worth a first round pick, is because of the value that he has, not just on the ice, but off it as well. I know a lot of players aren't looked at that in trade value, but I mean, he brings a lot of leadership. He helps create good culture in a locker room. He's not quiet. He stands up for the guys that he's on the ice with. He does a lot of the intangibles that a lot of players, especially on the top two lines, you don't see him doing. He can be a power play guy. Not so much lately, but I mean, the guy is a really good penalty killer. And he's typically incredibly disciplined. Not so much this year. I mean, he's had a couple bonehead penalties this year, but all in all, he's a pretty disciplined player. There's a lot of value there. And to your point, Rob, and I think this is another reason why they can get a first, is because he's under control for another couple years. That there's so many other pieces here outside of just his scoring productivity that makes him viable to any team. And primarily, I see a team like one of the teams at the top, maybe a Colorado Avalanche going after a guy like Scotty Laughton. A team like maybe not necessarily Rangers. I know they've been linked to Henrique and a couple other guys. I know they're linked to Vetrano as well. Plus, I don't know if Briere will actually do an inner division trade like that to a contender.
Actually, if I could interrupt you for a quick second, Brian, hold your thought. I did read this article today in the Hockey Writers by Jesse Corville Lynch saying that the Rangers are actually showing interest in Scott Laughton and actively pursuing him. Is there any truth to that, Brad?
I've read that too.
Yeah.
But the Rangers are not trading a first round pick for him.
No.
I can tell you that, right?
But there's a need due to injury, though, at this point.
Is there?
Well, didn't you guys just lose a center iceman or no? Or a winger?
We lost Heel. We lost Wheeler.
Yeah.
Right? Wheeler's a right winger. Wheeler has been playing extremely well since like Christmas. He's played well, and he's had a lot of points, and he's definitely been good in the locker room. But they need a right wing a lot more than they need a center. As I said, Johnny Brzezinski has been really good for them. And I
Right.
just don't think that it's worth. If I'm going to trade a first round pick, I want a guy who's got 24 goals. I want Frank Vetrano.
Right.
What the heck? If I'm going to trade my first round pick, I want him. I give up my first round pick. I might even give up. I might even give up more than that. I might give up a first and a third.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I think somebody like him, yes. But again, the Rangers have plenty of leadership. That's not a guy to me that makes sense for them. I think he's more a fourth line player.
Got it.
On the
What's
Rangers.
up, Wilson? Always chiming in, checking us out. You check him on Sundays. Agree, disagree. Beautiful, Brian. This is what I wanted to feed it back to you to not only finish your point, but to answer Henry Charles' comment here. Is there a surprise trade that could happen that's not being talked about? Someone goes that no one expected.
Oh, there's always that. This is what makes a trade deadline so much fun, and I know you guys will agree with me on this. There's always a dark horse move, a trade that comes out of nowhere that nobody expects. Now, with the Flyers specifically, if that's what you're talking about, being in a rebuild, there's certainly a couple guys that could potentially come to mind. One of them was Travis Konechny. Up to this point, I don't see him going anywhere. Too valuable to the team. Alternate captain, solidifying himself as a top 2 player on this roster at the moment.
Brian, he'd be worth 2 or 3 first round picks.
At least. No,
yeah.
You can definitely get 2.
You can get 2 for sure, but why would you want to trade him? He's an outstanding player. Outstanding players like him don't grow on trees. Okay,
right, but in a rebuild,
yeah, but you still need veteran players even on a rebuilding team.
Right, and it's Anaheim right now too. Anaheim's talking about trading for Frank Vetrano. He's their best offensive player. You got to get talent. You got to give talent to get talent.
Here's a question with Anaheim: what in the world happened with Troy Terry? What is going on with him this year? I mean, you watch the team. Is there any reason why his scoring's been down so much?
His partner's injured. Him and Zegras.
You think that's it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's. I mean, he's a big time player, and he's just having an off year. Now, he's a guy that might garner a first round pick because you know what? You put him. Let's say if I'm the Rangers, okay, I would give up a first for him because I can only imagine him playing with Zibanejad and Kreider.
Zegras?
Okay, Zegras, not Zegras. Troy Terry.
Oh yeah, Terry's not going nowhere.
No, I wouldn't think he would. I'm just making a point. I think he's probably having an off year, but a guy like that, there are certain guys. Victor Olofsson on Buffalo. Who would have thought that he might get traded? I'm hearing a lot of stuff about him too.
Yeah, again, it comes back to in order to get talent, you got to give talent. You want to make a move that's going to get you something big. You want to make a splash. You got to give something up.
He might be good for the Flyers though.
I've heard Victor Olofsson has been linked to the Avalanche, the Ducks, and I want to say the Senators. Last I heard,
he's a good player for a rebuilding team because he's still pretty young,
and
I think he's got a lot of ability. And I think he just needs to get out of Buffalo.
Yeah,
doesn't everybody though?
Works for Jack Eichel.
Yeah, right. Sure. What about Alex Tuck? He's another one.
Yeah, Alex Tuck is another one. I actually like this comment because there is a rumor surrounding Zegras and the Canadians. I read today on one of the Instagram. I'm blanking on which one it was. I think it was Puck Empire on Instagram. They were saying that the Flyers and Zegras is not gonna happen, which doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
one bit. But
it's hard to have two teams trading from the same standpoint. You know what I mean? And they're really on the same standpoint right now.
Mm-hmm. And you already made a splash with Anaheim earlier in the year to get Jamie Drysdale and a second-round pick for Carter Gauthier. So, do you really think that? Well, let me pose this to you, Rob. Do you really think that two teams that have already made a splash already, that two young GMs that are in their first couple years of, I know Briere's in his first, Verbeek's in his second,
right?
Develop that relationship where they could potentially make two splashes like that in the span of a season? Because I don't think I've ever seen it.
You know what? You make a good point because you have seen that happen where teams get comfortable talking and they wheel and deal very well with each other. Spurns one deal to another, and yeah, taking into that into account, it makes my last comment a little foolish. But what I'll say in regards to Zegras, I say no because what you would have to give for Zegras is what the Flyers are not looking to shed. Cutter Gauthier was a special situation where he refused to play for the team. So that's why it made them good bedfellows. I think that was a one and done type of deal. Don, rooting for the Devils and Islanders downfall. We're with you. We're sorry we couldn't help you out last Saturday, but they are holding strong, the Detroit Red Wings, in the wild card spot. Now, speaking of the Devils, this is my boy Neil Brown chiming in. Let's go Devils. Big time Devils fan. Thanks. Appreciate the love and the hate, but appreciate you joining in no matter what. Prism in the house. He's got a poll question, or in regard to the poll question, of course, you know he's coming in to defend Superman. His boy is one of his favorite players on this team, and Scotty Laughton. Could he? Of course. Should he? For what? You're in a playoff push. How many other players have playoff experience? Is the deal better now than the offseason? I don't know. Heartbreaking, I guess. But, hey, it's what a rebuilding team would do, but you hit the nail on the head, Priz. They're in a playoff race, and Scotty Laughton can be an asset to this team's power play, as we've been seeing, as I mentioned earlier in the show. And with this team remaining in contention, he does deserve a chance to stay. There's no doubt about it. Teams will have to blow Danny B and Jones away. Let me finish that sentence.
You're darned if you do it. You're darned if you don't, Rob.
Yeah,
that's the problem. I mean, look, you're right now. If the playoffs were right now, you wouldn't trade him, right? Because you're the third seed in the playoffs. Okay, maybe the odds are that you probably won't beat Carolina in the first round. Okay, but your odds will be greatly less if you traded him and played Carolina in the first round. So I'm just thinking, if they're not if it gets down to them fighting for the wild card, and then they have to play Boston or Florida or the Rangers in the first round, then you might think about it. But you're in third place. You're not that far away from Carolina right now for second place. I mean, if you theoretically could get home ice advantage and play Carolina in the first round, all the pressure in the world would be on Carolina, and this would be a complete, dance for the Flyers. They can
the winnable 7-game series for sure.
No pressure at all, no expectations. Happy they got there. Go out there, let the kids have fun, and see what they can do. Meanwhile, Carolina will be gripping those sticks and making sawdust out of them.
Right.
Because God forbid if they lose to a rebuilding team in the first round of the playoffs, Brindamore could go. I mean, could you imagine the ramifications? Brindamore could lose his job. Half the team could get traded. Jordan Staal might retire. There's all those things to think about. So before you're so quick to let Laughton go, I would wait till the last minute. I would wait till March 8th before I even thought about that, because just he's for you guys. Okay, he may not be for like other teams, but for the Flyers, he's got all the miscellaneous stuff that you want out of him. What do you call it? The intangibles,
right?
I think that's what they usually call it. He's an intangible guy, I guess, based on what you're saying. It's more than just the numbers. Why would you trade a guy like that? Especially if you have him for 2 more years, might as well keep him. You could always trade him in the offseason and get a ton for him then. I look, if somebody offers you a first round pick, then it's a no-brainer. But I can't imagine a team would do that unless I don't know. I mean, I guess
with the way Scotty started this season.
I mean, if you're Colorado and he's playing with and he's going to play with like McKinnon or Ratinen or some of those guys, okay, his numbers might actually be a lot better, But I don't know. That's a lot.
But again, I think the one thing that we continue to overlook here is the fact that the Flyers are still considered a rebuilding team. And I like the fact that despite the fact that they're sitting in third place in the division right now, they are, in fact, looking to trade and shed certain players. Nick Sealer, 31. Would I rather see him resign? Yes. But 31 in the final year of a contract. If you can get a deal for him, get him out. Sean Walker, same deal. 31. UFA at the end of the year. Get him out if you get a good deal for him. You got to be able to also free up the spaces for these players coming up.
Walker and Sealer, you'll get a very good price for
defenders for the playoffs.
I think you'll get more. I think you get more for them because again, it's just the position that they play is so important, and teams are dying for extra defensemen right now.
Right. And Torts has been honest with all the players. Unlike other teams that try to shield the players and then all of a sudden, hey, look, we traded you, we moved on, right? He's been upfront with the players saying, like, look, this is what our standpoint is. We're a building team. We're building this right? We are discussing this. That's just refreshing. I read that in a Jordan Hall article for NBC Sports, beat writer for the Philadelphia Flyers. So he's got the finger on the pulse there. And just Torts handling that is just another feather in his cap. Heel Chrome chiming in. What's up, Cromer? Sadly, fellas, I agree with the poll. I love Laughton, but he seems like your best trade piece right now. We both agree with you, Cromer, but Brad made a good point though that the defenseman, especially Sean Walker, who's having a career year, he might be your best trade piece right now. But Scotty Laughton, a close second, especially what he can do for a team's special teams.
And going back to Henry's comment, his question, dark horse, and I think it was Mean Metal Mike who dropped the comment.
Cal Peterson and Risto getting traded also at
Risto. Risto specifically would be that guy for me that could potentially be a dark horse.
Depends on his health.
Teams. Well, that's the big thing. That's the big thing.
Yep.
You see, if they traded him, and they were willing to absorb part of his salary, they could get a lot for him because a lot of teams still believe in him, and think that he's got to be in the right situation. He's played for Buffalo, who was not good. The Flyers are still rebuilding. I'm not saying they're not good; they are pretty good. But you put them on a top team with a top defenseman, with a defenseman that's like a top 20 defenseman in the league, that might change things around for him a little bit. He does like to throw his body, and every team could use a physical defenseman. Let's be honest.
Right.
My team could definitely use a physical defenseman right now for sure.
Right.
Trouba and Ryan Lindgren are nice to have, but the fifth and sixth defensemen are not exactly what you call real physical defensemen right now.
Right. Absolutely.
It just has to be the right team.
Right. It does have to be the right team. Me and Metal Mike chiming back in. What about how damn well the Canucks have proved everyone wrong? Thoughts on seeing Canucks versus Panthers Stanley Cup Finals with Vancouver winning their first cup? Well, that'd be a bold prediction because I think the only team more surprising than our Flyers is Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
How did it go the other night against the Wild though? Yeah, 10 goals though. 10.
It happens.
Listen, 5 or 6 happens. 10 is that's a lot. That's not good. That's like.
Wait, does that take away from how good they've been all season long?
A little bit, because what it says is they're human and they can lose, and they can give up goals. So you got to just wonder, if I'm other teams, I'm taking that game and I'm watching it real close if I have to play Vancouver to see what the heck the Wild did to get 10 goals against that team.
You know what they did? They put in Casey DeSmith. That's the only thing they did wrong in that game. Casey DeSmith is garbage. He's the one who gave up the majority of those goals. He gave up 5 goals in the third period.
Who started the game? Demko?
I think it was Casey. Actually, let me double check. I think it was Casey DeSmith entire game.
That's a lot of guys. That's a lot of goals. All I'm saying is when I saw that score, I kind of smiled. That's what I saw. Oh, you're not so bad. Okay, that's not real good.
That's a lot of pizza, Uncle Ed, like Little Caesars commercials used to say. Uh, Speaking of which, we're going to get some more of our members' comments, but if you're just joining us tonight, be sure if you like what you're hearing, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. It's going to alert you to all the shows you want to memorize, what shows on when. They'll just let you know right below me and become part of the A2D family here. And we have a lot of fun during these shows. Just like Eileen chiming in, wanted to pop in and say hello, giving some love to Brenda Moore as she always does. What's the news with Brindy? I haven't been keeping up with sports lately, unfortunately. I mean, Carolina's been up and down. They've been up and down. I mean, they're having a strong season, but I mean, Brendy's working his team out hard there in Carolina for sure.
Yeah, they're looking all right down there. They got to make a move or two. They need a goaltender. They're going to be one of the teams in the market for a goaltender.
Absolutely. Priz pointing out Lawton has 5 points in his last 4 games. He's starting to turn it on, and that's usually when teams come calling too. And under 17 minutes, that's the thing is that Scotty Lawton, his time on ice has been scattered this season, and he hasn't had as many opportunities, and he's been making the most of them lately. But that's certainly as you see him getting more time on ice, that's got to put a little bit more stock in the trade rumor mill here in Philadelphia. Leading into tomorrow night's game, boys, where they're going to be facing another rebuilding team in the Chicago Blackhawks and getting a taste, the look of the number 1 pick from this last NHL draft, and that's Connor Bedard, who right now he's first in points among rookies with. He has 39 on the season ahead of Brock Faber with 33 and Marco Rossi with 31. He's also first in goals with 17 over Rossi's 15 and Dmitry Veronikov's 14. Overall in the season, boys, 10 power play points, 2 goals on the power play, 2 game-winning goals, 19 minutes total ice time average per game, which is pretty impressive for a rookie, but an ugly minus 24 as you can see with a lot of rookies as well. So what do you guys expect to see from maybe the future great one?
What I've seen from this
kid, might score a goal or 2 tonight against the Flyers, but I expect the Flyers to put probably 5 or 6 in there. I think the Flyers have one of those nice, easy games that they go in, score a bunch of goals early, come in real hungry, being mad about that game on Saturday night, and prove to their fans and to everybody else that was a fluke. That there's very much a team to be reckoned with. They win that game easily. They're a good team. Don't kid yourself. They just because they lost the game against the Devils, that doesn't mean anything. Look at the Devils tonight. The Devils are great one night and stink the next night. The Flyers have been a very consistent team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think that the goaltending this whole weekend in the Stadium Series was bad because they couldn't see because the ice was probably very glary.
Mm-hmm.
Igor struggled a little bit with it for a while. So did what's his name, Sirkinen on the Islanders.
Sorokin?
Yeah, Sorokin, and so did and for sure your goalie Ersson was not his best. And to be honest with you, the guy on the Devils was spectacular. But I mean, how's he doing tonight?
5
goals has a lot of proof.
The Washington Capitals, who scored as many goals as the Blackhawks this year, they put up 4 on him. So what does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
That should never happen. By the way, the Devils are. Unless the Devils go out and they're able to get a top-notch goalie, guys, I wouldn't worry about them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you though, Brad. Like, it's tough. You always see these outdoor games, the goalies tend to not perform the best for that exact reason that you just said, was because you have that glare on the ice. It's tough to see the cross ice pass. The odd man rushes become a little bit more difficult to see.
The depth
On a
perception
night
too,
like
'cause
on a night like on
the
Saturday night,
fans weren't
the
there.
ice was cold,
Yeah, and
so the ice becomes rough.
yeah, and also the fans weren't right on top of you. So there's the depth perception thing. I mean, it's
Big.
not the same game. It's not even close. So
Right.
I wouldn't. I completely throw that.
It's really
game out.
easy to lose.
Mhm.
That's what the Devils were doing effectively. They were shooting up off the off wing, and the Flyers didn't scout them for that. It wasn't really, they brought that to the outdoor game, and you saw that right away. 30 seconds in, they made the adjustment, and that's when the game started getting a little tighter. But it's still hard to account on that open ice. Want to give love to an A2D member, John. What's up, gentlemen? I went to the Stadium Series game. I'm surprised I didn't freeze. Great experience. Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. I saw a lot of great pictures from my boys. But real quick, if you're just joining us, fam, you want to be a member like John, right? It's only $9.99 a month. You can get some amazing perks, including shout-outs, member-only shows, appearances, weekly picks, and more. So join today. The link is in the comments over on YouTube. But, Johnny, always like having you here. Priz, Bedard plus minus was always going to be bad. Tank mode, yeah. No, I agree, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Anaheim. Their defense is not as bad as it looks. It's tank mode. This team, specifically Anaheim, is not scoring goals. They just got romped 9-2 by Toronto, and they fortunately beat Buffalo. Thank God. I would have been upset about that one, but it's you got teams like that you're going up against a high-powered offense. Your defense is always going to look bad because your team's not out there to compete. Your team is out there to develop talent.
Chicago has given up 199 goals already. That's a lot of goals.
Yeah.
That's a incredibly large amount of goals right now. So I think the Flyers, some of the guys who might be in slumps a little bit, I think they come out, stretch out those legs, and get on this team early and fill up the net and get themselves back on the beam. This is the perfect medicine for them.
Wow, this is incredible. I'm hearing you, Brad. I'm reading this comment from Me Metal Mike again saying he has on his Flyers jersey some Philly Legends signatures: Mike Schmidt, Chase Utley, Recchi, Johnny Leclerc, Greg Luzinski. It's a great mix of different sports, which I love it. What's your guys' most prized autographs?
Ooh, I don't have it up here. I got a bunch of them back here. I don't know if you guys can see, but I got a bunch of pictures up here on the wall. I got Evgeny Svechnikov, or not, that's his brother. I've got Andre Svechnikov up here, Brandon Montour, Adam Henrique, Bobby Ryan, Andrew Cogliano right there. I got a stick signed over here by Jacob Slavin. I've got a Timu Solani signed picture downstairs that I need to get a custom frame for. I got a bunch of them. But yeah, I would say probably my most prized, to answer Mike's question, is probably the Timu Solani picture. I just got to get a frame for it, a specific one. I can't cut it down either, otherwise it goes into the picture.
Right.
What sport are we talking about?
I think he's saying any sport, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got a Michael Jordan one and a Gretzky one over there. So, and then of course over there I got Mickey Mantle, Billy Martin, Whitey Ford, and who's the other one? Oh, and Joe DiMaggio.
More goats
signed. I got a lot of really.
You just got the goat signing everything for you. It's fine. We get it.
Yeah, but I was listen. I'm a lot older than you guys. I got those. I got that stuff in the '80s.
No, I'm not. I'm just breaking balls.
No. I'm just.
It's just you're dropping all these goat names from the past, like the greatest of all times in basketball and hockey, and then you're throwing Mickey Mantle out there and Joe DiMaggio and.
Well, I got Zibanejad up there. I got Zibanejad up there. I got Panarin up there. I got Rod Gilbert up there, and Rattel and Hatfield.
You got some good ones, man. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but again, like Rod Gilbert. I'll give you an example. Rod Gilbert, I paid $7 for his autograph in the 1980s. Okay, so things are a little different now. It's you save them and you save them when you're old, all of a sudden they're worth a lot. But
Yeah,
it helps, guys, when you're
it's
like,
true.
yeah. I mean, I think I got that one with Billy, the one that I got with Billy Martin and DiMaggio, Mantle, and what's the other one? Ford. Okay, that was sold at Walmart back in the 1980s, and I think you could have gotten that for like maybe $50-$60 for three of the four being signed. The only one that wasn't signed was Whitey Ford. And naturally, I got Whitey Ford to sign it, of course, because back then that's what I did because I had nothing better to do with my life besides work and go to card shows. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah.
Let me give some love to Swoopy chiming in. What up, Swoopy? I believe the Flyers need some of their long-term vets who have been with the organization through it all. Coots being one who is captain now. He won't be going anywhere. They can't just have vets who came in via free agency from other teams. But trading lots isn't a big deal to me. If they can get some value for him, then do it. Hey, I mean, I think we said that, the price, you know what I mean, that would make it a no-brainer would be a first-round pick. Second round, then you got to start thinking, or a prospect that's maybe like unproven. I think it'd have to be someone that was a higher draft pick earlier in his career, or at least has the promise of a return for the Flyers, or else I agree. Why not keep Laughton, who just has that sense of Flyers culture, and he brings it into the locker room. Anthony Aids chiming in. Hey guys, what's up? I'm glad to have you in the house tonight. So boys, in terms of the Blackhawks, we were talking about how they've been having mostly their downs with a 15-38-3 record, and they're 1-8-1 in their last 10. This is just a strong bounce back effort for the Flyers. How do we see this game going down tomorrow, being Wednesday?
I'll start. Okay, because I just want to give you some statistics, the ugly statistics of the Blackhawks. Okay, goals for per game 2.09, goals against 3.54. Their backup goalie, by the way, is 2-16 with a 4.01 goals against average. You probably well, are the Blackhawks playing tonight?
I don't think so.
Okay, they're not playing today. Thank you, Watch. Oh my God, so embarrassed.
We at least Siri's listening in.
Yeah. It kind of scares you though that they could listen in like that, isn't it? Their power play is at 13.1%, so that should make you feel a little better. You're not the only one that struggles with your power play. Their penalty kill is only 77%. So, guys, go get them. Do what you need to do. Get yourself back on the beam, and you'll be fine. And then again, if you go on March 8th and you're still in third place or close to second place, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So it's you have to decide what's worth trading. What's it going to take for you to get to let these guys go? I mean, I as a Ranger fan, I would ask you, would you take Capo Caco for Laughton? Capo Caco scored again, by the way, tonight. Since he came back from his injury, he's got 5 goals now.
Caco's on the move, but it's not going to be to Philly. It's going to be to a complete rebuilding team, a complete change of scenery. He's been linked to a couple teams. Flyers are not one of them.
They should maybe think about him. Because I just think, you know what? He's starting to score. I don't know if they'd even trade him now. Because he's since he came back from his injury, he's got 5 goals in like 20 games. So
he's got the pedigree that I was talking about, Brad. He definitely has the pedigree in terms of where he was drafted in stock.
He's 22 years old.
Yeah.
I mean that's the thing, and he doesn't make a whole lot of money. But I mean I don't know if the Rangers would do that. I don't know if I would do that. I have to think long and hard about that because I still think that he can be good, even though I make jokes about him, which I do. I made the same jokes about Wheeler, and now I'm really sorry that I did because I liked him. I started to really like him, and now he's out for the season. But just wondering what you guys thought about that one.
I think it would be a nice fit for the Flyers, but I don't necessarily know if the Flyers are going to bring in another right winger when they're waiting on Mitch Coffey's going to be getting ready to come up. Tippett is kind of starting to find his groove. And there's a few other names that could potentially come up. I think he just winds up blocking somebody. And a move for him to make sense would be to go to one of the teams that are the bottom feeders,
like
a
the
Chicago,
Ducks.
an Anaheim, a San Jose, something along those lines.
Well, if it was Kako and a first-round pick for Vetrano, it might happen. Maybe. I don't know.
Right.
They probably, if I were the Ducks, I would want more than that. But
It's
you know, as a
that's a
Ranger fan,
possibility.
of course, I'd be happy with that. You know, but I think the Ducks probably want more than that. But you know, that's just something that I would wonder about.
I mean, he'll have 30 goals before the trade deadline anyway. So
Yeah, you're good. Yeah,
I'm high, baby.
too bad about Thomas Hurdle. I heard he got hurt and he's out for like 8 weeks.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
bad news for
Yeah.
the Sharks.
Don, this easily could be a Scott Laughton game to highlight him on a national stage. It's going to be a TNT game, and certainly a game that he could do well against a team that doesn't have like a cohesive unit on the ice in the Chicago Blackhawks. But I think if the Flyers do move a Laughton or a forward in general, right? What they want to do is they want to replace the asset they lost in Cutter Gauthier, and that is a player that was drafted to play at least center ice. It would remain to be seen whether he could play center ice indeed at this level, but they need to. I think that's been the thinnest area for the Flyers, which is a rarity. Is this team's usually very strong up the gut. So if they're getting any sort of players back, for me, I think it'd have to be a center iceman.
I'll tell you what. I just thought of a team that might be a good team for the Flyers to do business with: Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. I don't see them selling off pieces, even though I'd like to see them sell off pieces. I just don't see it happening. They could definitely use a third line center and maybe move them up to second, and they could really use a guy like Walker or Sealer. So you might be able to do business with a team like that.
Good thought.
Because they've got guys who can score, but they really need some two-way players on their team because they have too many one-way players. That is why they're struggling so badly this year. And losing Svechnikov is just a horrible injury for them. So I don't know how you replace him, but he's a defenseman, isn't he?
Oh, you think Sergachev?
Sergachev, I'm sorry.
Sergachev,
yeah. Losing him is a horrible. He's a defenseman, right?
Mm-hmm. And he just came back.
What? He has a broken leg.
He had just came back and then he busted his leg.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say he just came back from a broken leg. I know hockey players are tough, but I mean,
I don't like anybody on Tampa Bay, and it's not for anything personal than the fact that they have just been so good for so long. But you hate to see that. You really do.
Oh no, you don't want to.
Sergachev, he's a very talented defenseman. He's a strong two-way defenseman. He plays a complete 200-foot game. You don't want to see that.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying. They need a defenseman, and they could definitely use a center who can win faceoffs because Stamkos can't take every draw and he can't be out there all the time. And they're like a donut team. They're really good with their wings, but other than Kucherov, they don't really have a center. Unless you consider Stamkos a center. I'm still not sure because Stamkos takes all the draws, but then he goes to the right wing all the time. So
Don with the report. The darn fish sticks.
Are you serious? They came back in that game?
Can I be honest? I'm not surprised. It's a Patrick Waugh team now. Yeah. He's going to get the best out of these guys.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see I wouldn't have wanted two good lines out of the Islanders when we usually get one.
You know what? I wouldn't want to have been one of the Islander players in the locker room after that game against the Rangers. I mean, I would imagine some hors d'oeuvres were thrown on the floor. I'd imagine a couple of food tables and food trays may have been thrown on the ground. That must have been quite the scene.
Don't know. But jumping back to the Flyers and the Hawks, I'm going to give my take real quick.
Sure.
I think this is going to be. I think this is going to be a closer game than people think, just because of Connor Bedard. There is a lot of talent on this Blackhawks roster. They haven't put it together yet, but Lucas Reichel's good. You got Connor Bedard. You still have Nick Foligno, who may not be scoring goals, but still has a huge impact on that roster. Defense needs a lot of help, and Peter Mrazek is still an average goalie at best. Had a good stint with the Flyers, but he's been average ever since he left, and I don't know how he got a 2-year contract extension from the Blackhawks. Is what it is.
Because his goals against average is under 3, and
really?
I think his save, and it's like 2.91, and his save percentage is 909 with that defense. So just
how the hell are they that bad?
Because he's playing great this year for them. They stink.
Mm.
They stink. And the other guy, their backup is 2-16, and has a 4 ERA.
Well, there you go.
4 goals against average. So that's not helping. There
you go. That's the answer there. But Bedard, I think we're going to see a show from Bedard. I think he's this kid's the real deal. This kid has missed a couple weeks. With, I guess it was a jaw injury after taking a hit, and he just hasn't missed a step. Did you guys see his goal the other night?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Just this easy, cross ice pass. Hits the twine, and as he hits the twine, his eyes just lock right on the goaltender and don't move. He just stares down the goalie. Dude was cold-blooded the other night. I don't know what happened, what led to it, but as soon as he scored that goal, he said, "Hey, yo, I got you." And then he just stared him down for like 2 minutes. It was really great. I was like, "Ooh, this kid's got a little edge to him too."
That's what I want to ask. Is it edge or ego?
Could be a little both.
Probably both, but that's okay. Yeah. Listen, we know he's gonna be a great player.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have enough talent around. As I said, he'll get 2 goals, but you're gonna win like 6 or 7-2 or something like that. You guys are gonna smoke him. Yeah. I have a feeling the Flyers are gonna come in very, very angry about Saturday night. They're gonna be a very great hockey team.
Don, I heard Corey Perry gave Bedard's mom a jaw injury.
Oh, come on. Really?
But yeah, the season did go fast, Don. I mean, it did go fast. I can't believe it's only 27 left, and it's surprising to see both of our teams still in it at this point. It's just really great to see.
We were in it for a little while, and then we came back to reality, but that's okay.
Hey, it's almost like you almost wish that to happen, because that way trade deadline decisions are easy, right? Yeah. When you put your team in this position, it makes it a lot more difficult. We already talked about who might be sold by the deadline here, or maybe the Flyers will stay pat. I'm pretty convinced they won't be buyers, though. That's something that the Flyers won't be.
No. Conservative buyers at the most. They're going to be very careful about the deals they make, who they sell off. Like I said, if anybody that's a UFA, you can consider them gone unless they come up with some kind of an extension over the next few days. Or I think it's 2.5 weeks, which I don't see happening. I think Briere, Jonesy, and Torts want to keep all the options open that they possibly can. I read an article, I forget where I read it. Torts had a sit down with all the guys that they are considering trading, giving them a heads up on what is going on and being very transparent with them, which to me, I respect a ton. I love that. Actually, you're being upfront with your players to say, hey, there's a possibility you're going to be traded before the deadline. Just want you to know we appreciate everything you've done. Continue to do it. Continue to work hard. This, that, and the other. Like, I love it. I love the fact that he was that upfront with them. And to me, it makes me respect the organization that much more.
That is a class thing to do. Right. You don't see that. You don't see teams doing that enough.
Right. Especially in a rebuilding scenario, as both these teams are, boys. So as we move towards the last 5 minutes of the show, I want to get your guys' final thoughts, and I want to throw out a little setup question. You take it wherever you want to go. But I want to ask you, are the Flyers rebuilding better than the Blackhawks?
Oh,
Brad, you can go first.
oh my God, are you kidding me?
You're going first on this one.
Yeah, that's an easy question. They're building a lot better than the Blackhawks. Okay, year one, which was 2 years ago when they first fell apart. Okay, I'm not going to count that because that's not fair. They weren't expecting that to happen. Okay, last year was the first real year of the year that they started to rebuild and they got all the kids in there. Okay, they weren't as bad as this. I mean, the Blackhawks are just a mess right now. I mean, it's great that they have Bedard, and he's definitely a guy that you can build around. And they got a couple other young players that are pretty good. But that team is a mess right now. I mean, Seth Jones is like a -15, and he's supposed to be one of your top guys, and he's making $8 million a year. I mean, that's just there's no excuse for that. So I think first of all, the Flyers have the coach and the GMs in place who are going to lead them out. They got a solid captain now. They got some leadership on their team. Their veterans that they do have on the team are real class act guys who do all the X's and O's for everybody. They're guys that I think I used the word before. What do you call it? Not miscellaneous. What's the word I used before? They're the kind of guys that you need to have on your team. They check all the boxes, and that's good. That's what they need to have. Because you're not going to do a rebuild
Right.
without some really good veterans helping you get through it.
Yeah,
They take care of the necessities on the ice. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. A guy like Scott Laughton. I mean, if they insist on getting a first round pick for him, they probably really want to keep him. So I don't know how that could possibly happen, but for a third or fourth, I don't know that a third or fourth line center can get you a first round pick. But hey, God bless you if you can get him.
Hey, like I said in the beginning of the show, man, there's not a lot of centers available.
No, but
Cover's
you never
not
know.
bare, but it's not full.
But you never know though, right? You never know if there's always a couple of hockey trades that happen too.
Yeah.
It's not always what you think it is. That's
Yeah.
the thing. So
No,
we'll have
totally
to see
agree.
about that.
Totally agree.
There could be a lot of things in store for this trade deadline. Me Metal Mike thinks that the Penguins are tanking and Crosby could leave Pittsburgh. I don't know, but maybe anything's
What
possible.
about Tampa Bay? What's the deal with them?
Yeah.
I mean, that game last night against Ottawa was just hideous. I watched that game last night,
Right.
and I was watching it. I was scratching my head because I couldn't believe how bad Tampa Bay was.
Right.
Ottawa was dominating that game.
Right.
And you look at what happened to Tampa. Didn't Tampa Bay lose like 9-2 to Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, they did.
They had that game. They had the game then, and I mean I don't know about Tampa Bay, guys.
A lot of question marks.
Are they? My hot take is they are not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that for sure. The question is, all right, so if the Flyers are doing better than the Blackhawks, Brian, who is the next team that's going to rebuild as well as the Flyers? Don puts that out there.
That's a great question, Don. I'm not sure how to even answer that.
Go ahead, you can say it, Brian. I know you want to say
No,
it.
because they're not doing it well. They're the last team right now on my mind.
Ducks.
But no, I don't think it's the Ducks, to be completely honest with you. I think it could be the Ottawa Senators. Do a quick little rebuild. They got some good pieces there. I think they need a few pieces on the defensive side. They need to get a nice young goaltender. As I see, we're down to 60 seconds here. But I think the Senators, if they make a couple key moves here at this trade deadline, move a few pieces, maybe a Giroux, maybe a Tarasenko, and get some nice young pieces back, or maybe some high draft picks. I can see the Ottawa Senators being the next Flyers.
They haven't
Absolutely.
made the playoffs in 7 years, though. So that's a pretty long rebuild, though. Flyers aren't going to take that long.
Absolutely. All right, thanks, boys. I want to remind the folks joining us that we're brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, Dr. Paul Vidal. Check out our doc, Make 'em Yours, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Hey, for the great Matt Tsuti, who's off this week, he'll be back next week as Brian and Brad will be. I will be off next week in AC. Maybe I'll hit you up, Brad, while I'm down there. We'll check you out. Thanks for joining us. Flyers Talk A2D every day 360.